changes during this moment. But there are change agents and organizations who are dedicated to providing insight, providing lifestyle opportunities and changes, and are dedicated and have been dedicated, not in just this moment, but in over 38 years, the Black Women's Health Imperative has continued to service our community in ways that we might have been blind to. But never to be best by anyone, they have continued to make their movement, which this is, a women's movement, in the front from Spelman College. So with me tonight, I have my own favorite Dr. Wright Marshall, Angela, who is great. She's on the board and she has a wonderful message and mission to share with us. And of course, the esteemed executive there, Monica Coleman, who has continued to integrate lifestyle marketing and ingenious lifestyle persuasion to get us all to understand Black Women's Health Imperative Conference that is going to take place. So those who don't know what it is to make history, be a part of history. Let your history be noted that you took time and took advantage of the Black Women's Health Imperative by knowing that you got to spend an evening on Sunday with Angela Davis so that you can boast to your friends that your perspective on who you were and the history of who you were could be found at the Black Women's Health Imperative. Good evening, ladies. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
I'm not a frontline worker, so I'm very, 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 very blessed, grateful, privileged, and I appreciate all those who are on the front line, like yourselves, working to change the narrative, not just today, but forever. So, questions for you ladies. Tell me about what's getting ready to happen. If you would share with me, board chair. Exactly, and I love your hair and your necklace. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Style is so important. I've lost all my style. No haircut, no shave. So it's good to see you guys channeling something beautiful and bright and inspiring for our audience, because we all need a little bit of inspiration right about now. And you guys got a lot of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, again, thank you for having us and thank you for highlighting the Black Women's Health Imperative. We appreciate all our partners. And I want to first give homage to Billy Avery, our founder, who started this wonderful organization 38 years ago on the campus of Spelman College in Atlanta. And if it weren't for her, none of us would be here. And so I just always like to give homage to her. The Black Women's Health Imperative has a very rich history. We've been around for 38 years. This is the first time we're actually celebrating our anniversary. This is our inaugural anniversary week celebration, and we're all excited to be a part of it.
Me too. I'm excited. Don't stop.
Yeah.
The really great thing, and as Angela mentioned, whenever you talk to Billy, it's always an inspiring occasion. She's still on our board. She's still very much involved with the organization. And one of the things that has always struck me was that this organization was really founded at a conference. And so it was born of a conference at Spelman. And she always says they expected 200 people and over 2,000 showed up. And because the response was so great, if you think back in the early 80s, there was an attack, so to speak, on the reproductive rights of women. And unfortunately, in that conversation, the needs of Black women were not necessarily being met. And so she and other women came together and they had this conference. And from that, the imperative was found. And so unfortunately now, we're not in a much different place than we were 38 years ago in some respects. And so we wanted to do something with a modern day twist, of course, but that is definitely rooted in the heritage of our organization.
This is my long pause, just so that you know that.
I noticed.
I practice long.
Is that a journalism technique? Should we too adapt the long pause?
Right, you can long pause, let the person be comfortable. We don't want them not to be able to, and then ponder so the audience knows that there's something really special happening. I think most people don't understand that, last week we lost 2 titans
Mhm.
And so to think about a woman who had a vision 38 years ago for women today. So her
Right.
vision wasn't for herself, it was for others and for future generations. When you think of legacy, the Black women's health imperative is the legacy of change, and change is in order at this moment. And we are definitely in that. So as a board member, what's it like? Because I know that you got a lineup. I don't know if you're going to hang out with Angela Davis. I'm going to hang out with her on Sunday night. I've already made my reservations. But I think this is historic, not only for the organization, but just for women, young women, mothers and daughters and sisters and friends to commune and actually receive the beautiful information from you two.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned Angela Davis, because for those of us born in the 60s and 70s, I mean, she is our shero. And so we're just excited to even have her in the room, the virtual room with us on this project. And, you know, interestingly, she used to serve on our board way back in the 80s. And so we're happy. This is a homecoming for us to have her come back and celebrate with us. We're just thrilled to have her coming with us.
Sure, and that will kick off the week on Sunday. Dr. Marshall is actually on our panel about maternal mortality that's actually called Black Mothers Matter, where we'll be addressing some of the disparities that are leading to Black women having a higher rate of passing away when having babies, and what some of the implicit biases that causes that, and just really looking at ways that women who are pregnant can advocate for themselves to hopefully change the tide there as well.
Dr. Marshall, you want to talk about your panel and this huge disparity that
It's a huge disparity. So Black women are dying at 3 times the rate of white women when giving birth, 3 times. And in some areas, it's even as high as 6 times. And so this is a health emergency for Black women. And so this is an issue that's very serious, because Black women should not have to risk our lives just to have a child. And so it's something that deserves an attention. Now, we don't want to indict all the doctors, because it's not all the doctor's fault. It's not all the mother's fault. It's a very complex problem, but we need to sort it out and figure out what's causing this awful statistic and make sure that we're working together to do something about it.
That's very nice of you, but I'm not going to be that nice. At the seat of the table, the whole idea is to have a fair access to healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And it is imperative, using your organizations, that we eliminate this disparity. I mean, that's a gross disparity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unconscionable that women of other colors don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, for me, it's not about that. It's kind of like redlining in healthcare. You know, we're going to punish you if you have a baby. I mean, that's not a pleasant thought when you think how much Black women give to this society, this country, systematically, underpaid, overworked, over-delivering for underpay. And yet we still have to worry about having a safe childbirth, and that the society is going to allow this health disparity to be present. Yeah, we're going to indict them all.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's unconscionable. I feel the same way right now with the silent women in Georgia, who are literally letting some governor literally push our mayor for saving the lives of all Georgians. It's not like the mask wouldn't save all Georgians, but this disparity is unacceptable. It's a tragedy and a travesty that they're willing other women of other races to watch this and think that it's okay. So you don't have to, I will. Having a seat at the table means there is not a health disparity, and why should women suffer and then still serve? I'm not certain what that means.
That's right. And you know, the interesting thing about the statistic is it affects all women, all socioeconomic levels. It's not, no one is immune to this situation. If you're Black, chances are either you're going to die or your child is going to die prematurely. And so it is a health crisis. It's an emergency, and it's imperative that we do something about it. One thing that I hear from my patients a lot of times, and most of my patients are Black women, and they come to me because they feel that their doctors don't listen to them. And, you know, I've heard this thousands of times. My doctor just didn't listen. And even, you know, using the example of Serena Williams, you know, one of the things that she said, she tried to tell them, I think I'm having a blood clot. I need a CAT scan, because she had a blood clot before, and they still dismissed her. And so the thing I hear most often is we're dismissed in the healthcare setting, we're dismissed on the job, we're not respected, we're not valued, we're not listened to, and yes, it is an emergency. It's imperative that we do something about it.
Monica?
I think everything Dr. Marshall is saying is correct. As an organization, we've been looking at how do we address it. So some of the things that we're doing, we're very active on the Hill with a lot of collaborative efforts with other organizations and legislators around not just addressing this, but really looking at some of the social determinants of health that cause some of the issues. So a lot of the work that we do is not just about the medical component, it's about a lot of the factors around that. So some women are not getting prenatal care because they live 60 miles from a hospital and there's not actual care for them to have. And so by the time they do find out that there is an issue with the baby, their pregnancy is advanced and there's not much that can be done, for example. We're also working with an organization called AWAN to create some implicit bias curriculum for neonatal nurses and obstetric people who are in that space, so that they're more aware of some of the challenges that their patients have and how the patients feel, and they are armed with research-based information to do better. So we are aware, we are sounding the alarm. We are putting together the Black Women's Birth Plan. I'm sure you've talked to women who have told you they want a birth plan. And a lot of times it's focused on the soft things, like I want, you know, this person in the room, I do or don't want music. The one that we're developing also has some conversation starters for women who feel like they are not being heard. It has information about how to elevate if you don't think you're receiving the care from your doctor. Your doctor's not the end all be all in any setting. Who do you talk to next if you feel like your doctor is not listening to you? And then also making sure that women are looking out for things like gestational diabetes and understanding some of the pre-existing conditions that can cause complications during pregnancy as well. So there is the lobbying and advocacy piece, there's the awareness piece, and there's also us providing an actual tangible tool that will hopefully help women that are pregnant.
So when we think about tools, we think about technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are some, we partner with an organization called Healthy Birthday that has an app called Count the Kicks. And so through that app, women are able to actually count their baby's kicks and keep a record of that to see if there is something that could potentially be wrong with the baby. I know I was at a conference about a year ago, and there is a health system in DC that actually has an app that is delivering similar prenatal care to some of the patients and making their doctors aware when there is a change in fetal movement or fetal heartbeat or those things. So they're getting those alerts in real time through this app that is on the patient's phone. So there are some innovative things that are happening in this space, and we are partnered with some organizations around that to bring awareness to.
And you're creating your own technology as well.
I mean, what we try to do as much as we can is not to reinvent the wheel. So if, you know, we often form partnerships with organizations like our CYL Squared platform, we are actually going digital with that and building out an entire app that we're excited about, because we'll be able to deliver our wellness and lifestyle curriculum, not just to people in person, but virtually. So that opens the door for us to increase the number of people we're impacting. We are the CDC's top performing grantee in that lifestyle program. And so to be able to expand our reach with that is very exciting. And then it also is going to give us the chance to infuse more about emotional wellness. And so, and Dr. Marshall can speak to this, as we're talking to people about lifestyle, you want to make sure that they're emotionally well to even process the thought of diet and exercise first. And so there is definitely a shift in a lot of the programming based on research that shows that there should be a heavy focus on the emotional wellness piece. And so the app that we're rolling out this year will have a ton of content about that, as well as, there's a component called Diva Dish, where there will be cooking demonstrations that are culturally relevant. So things that we actually eat in our culture, but with a healthy twist on those things. And so we're excited. There will be communities within the app. So those could be geographic communities. Those could be communities based on interest that allow for you to have accountability partners. So yes, we are developing our own technology, and we're excited about that.
Yeah, I heard about that. I had an insight, a little bit of inside trading with
Okay.
little leadership there. Dr. Marshall?
Yeah, and so we're all excited. I'd like to piggyback on Monica's comment about stress, because as a practicing physician, one of the things I hear the most from my patients is that they're stressed, and I see how stress affects their health. And, you'd be surprised at how often economic stress comes up in the exam room. I'm hearing more of my patients tell me about discrimination on the job. I've had to write so many letters for accommodations and, advocating for my patients who, have gotten sick and they're, threatening to lose their jobs because they're sick. And so the economic stress, not getting paid for equal work, getting paid 62 cents on a dollar compared to white men. And so these economic factors are really affecting our health. And so I always promote therapy, but there's only so much therapy that a person can have. We got to fix some of these social conditions so that we're not just doing therapy around all this dysfunction in our community.
Yeah. That seems a real heavy responsibility on top of being a doctor.
Yeah.
A psychiatrist and a sociologist and all that, given the pain. And the stresses creates other health concerns. And I think that this superwoman complex that Taraji reduced, kind of like annihilated. She's like, cut it out. I think that will help many of us. But I also think we as men have to make better decisions about how we put our lens on in support of our women. I think we can't say that loud enough. The fact that
we agree. It's interesting. Right before this call, I was actually having a conversation with someone because I saw some content earlier this week about the role of cisgender men in the feminist movement and in the social justice movement in general, and if it's even a valid role at this point, and if cisgender men are contributing, are they hurting the cause? And it kind of took my breath away when I saw it, and I said, wow, there's a generation of young women who are growing, and they have a very different viewpoint about that. And so I agree with you that I would love for us to collectively be able to figure out how we work together to ensure that everyone is supporting everyone in a way that is progressive, of course.
Well, Dr. Marshall, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to share, I've actually done a social media post on this before, but I have so many of my patients who are supported by their husbands, their partners, their brothers. I've had a couple women who have late stage dementia who their primary caregiver is their brothers. I mean, I have black men overwhelmingly come to the doctor's office with their wives, sisters, mothers, more than any other man group that comes into my office. I mean, overwhelmingly, the brothers are bringing their women to the doctor. And I can't say that about other groups of people. And so, because it's very unusual for a man to come to the doctor with a woman, right? You know, women go to the doctor with men more often than men come with women. But when men do come to the doctor with my patients, it's almost always a brother. And so for that, I have to applaud our men. You hear so many things in the news about what Black men aren't doing, but I can tell you they are stepping up, taking care of their women, at least here in the DC metro area. So I just wanted to share that experience that it's remarkable.
Yeah, and I'm pro that, but I know right now, particularly with the uprising, that it has caused it's made some brothers very squeamish, if I can use that word, that their uncertainty, they feel emasculated. When you think of much of what's going on in Hollywood, the conversation is very challenging. When you think of maybe the sexual identification of women as it relates to Black Lives Matter, and when you look at what they say they represent and how the household should be considered, not just a man in the household as a leader, but literally female-led households. And for some brothers, that leads to a lot of insecurity. And I've had brothers where I've had to share. And I think it was just even with the uprising, brothers who were over 35 were like, what are they doing? And they're making us bad. And I remember the first reaction in Atlanta was a little bit like, what are they doing? And you better stop that. That's not us. And, you know, and as they were calling, I was like, it's just not your moment. And it's not your movement, but you need to support the movement. It's about your movement. It's about your community. I think we have always displaced the true partnership and leadership of women in the movement. I think that's a fact. I think we're not going to be able to be revisionist as it relates to Black Lives Matter. It was started by women. So when you approach it like that, that makes some who, you know, I'm happy to participate with you and Monica. I don't feel insecure. I don't feel like I'm losing. I'm winning. But it's a new reality for those who have been missing the pieces or don't want to really step up to their obligations. I mean, it's going to be a moment that men are going to have to ask that question. Not that much of it was systematic, but today I can't treat somebody like I saw my dad treat a woman. That was then. So you can't treat women like you did 5 years ago. And
as many men shouldn't. There is a lot of deeply rooted misogyny, even among Black men, to be honest, that is so it's so deep and it's so commonplace to what has been the norm that the deconstruction of that does feel a little bit weird. And it does, in some cases, seem to make men not know which direction to go. So I think there has to be a lot of self-reflection to understand the roles that they've played in the lives of the women that they influence in the workplace, in the family unit, and what that really looks like, because there's some things that do need to change. I think the new generation of leaders that is emerging, they're a little bit more in tune with it than I would say even some of us in our 40s and 30s have been. So it's a conversation that is starting to happen, but I don't think I don't think those men should be squeamish. I think they should take notice and really ask themselves, why does it make me feel a way that there are women leading, or that, you know, this conversation is happening, and why do I have the views that I have about leadership and what that really means?
well, I think it's like the little slice of black pie. When you know, you say, hey, this is how you participating in a program. I say, yeah, okay, I'm happy to participate. Some brothers figure all pie is supposed to be theirs, and because it ain't that much pie. You know, there's ageism. I mean, you literally have brothers that are no longer paying attention to detail. Like you can miss paying attention to detail now, Monica, and literally miss culture moving. Like you just found out that that's who started Black Lives Matter. I mean, like there are people who didn't know who started Black Lives Matter. So then now they're coming, oh, that's who they are. Oh, what are they like? Hollywood, when you think about many of the women who are leading in Hollywood, even in some of the movies, brothers are questioning because they don't, when they see Issa Rae, they don't necessarily see a strong male that owns something, that would be, you know, a young cat who's really in front. So that's part of the dialogue when you hear it. When you think of the movie, it was kind of a Bonnie and Clyde movie, Hustle and King, or Queen and Hustle, or
King and Slim.
yeah, King and Slim. Is it King and Slim?
I think so.
Yeah.
King and Slim. I think
But,
so.
but even that, you know, the brother was not quite, you know, he was a $15 an hour brother celebrating like.
It's interesting because I think to a lot of us women, these men are very familiar. It's not far. What we're seeing and what is being expressed in art is not far from the experience of many women. So I would venture to say that, you know, some of these men may need to look around because these are not characters that are coming out of the air. You know, people talk about Insecure, and there are year-long debates about she should have stayed with him when he worked at, I think it was Best Buy. And, you know, there are women you can talk to every day who will tell you stories of staying and building a man and, you know, this whole piece. And there are women now that are just not with that, and they don't have to be, and they should not have to be. And so the great thing about us as an organization is that because our programming really is for women across the lifespan, we really do get to hear the perspectives of women in their 70s and women who are in their 20s. And it's a very different perspective. And that's the beauty of it. And that's why with BWHI Week, we've tried to ensure that we have some kind of programming for everyone, and understanding that what the young ladies who engage in our My Sister's Keeper program on college campuses care about and the needs that they have may differ from the women who we have on our the It's My Time panel that are women who are over the age of 40. The needs are a little different. The conversation is different, but their needs still need to be met. So, you know, that's the great thing, is that, you know, we are diverse as women. We all have a lived experience that should be honored. And I think some of what you or other men may see is that those lived experiences are being honored and expressed in unique and different ways that are still real to us.
I'm for the party. I just want to be at the party. You know, it don't bother me. That is not my narrative. So I'm working to get more brothers to understand, you know, pay attention, love, and, you know, let's move the ego out, because we need each other. I guess my main point is we need each other. At the end of the day, when you think about menopause, and we literally don't, as men, you know, focus on that and share, and maybe not even support enough at that moment. You know, and it's not in the conversation, and it's not necessarily even with Queen and Slim. I think about mental health, the health of both Black women and Black men is so important. So when I think of Ashanti Doss, who you have coming, and just giving voice to that, she doesn't just say for women only as it relates to mental health, it's the community. So I see the healing that's going to take place at this conference as a significant movement. I think I've said the Black women's health imperative is a continuation of a movement that started 38 years ago. And here now you can bring an audience for a whole week and participate. So I think that gives us the ability to sample, to taste, and to wear and put on this phenomenal organization. Dr. Marshall, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to all of the above. I really like the focus on mental health. I think that's an area that we really, in our community, need to work on. I think we need to start raising our children differently. You know, in most Black households, you know, what do we tell our boys when they fall and hurt themselves? We tell them not to cry. Get up, ain't nothing wrong with you. You know, don't cry. And so I think as a result, because we don't allow our children to emote, we're raised to keep those emotions inside. And, you know, they're now learning that the keeping in of emotions is not good for our health. Even holding back a cry is not good for our health. It actually raises your blood pressure. And when you cry, there's a release that happens, and it lowers your blood pressure and your heart rate and everything. So even crying can be therapeutic, but we tell our children not to cry. Our men, you know, tell our women not to cry. Our men better not cry or else, you know, you think something's wrong with them. So we have to really, I think, start embracing our mental health a little bit more, not just through therapy, but through how we train ourselves to handle our mental health, to start caring for each other in a more vulnerable way, even starting out as children.
Vulnerability.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
That's scary.
No.
For a lot of people, a lot of men.
And women. And women too.
Ooh, and
absolutely.
That's
Very much.
I think
we hosted earlier this year with the city of Atlanta an emotional wellness summit with the mayor's office, and that was one of the topics that came up in the Superwoman Syndrome panel, was the ability to be vulnerable and how a lot of women don't feel comfortable with that because it's seen in some circles as a sign of weakness, and with everything else that you're managing. And so I agree with you, Dr. Marshall, that I think, you know, some of the questions really will be around how we support each other and our sister circles and sister groups for people to be vulnerable. My friends and I were able to, a few weeks ago, participate in this really amazing ceremony where we had this sound bath and it was this whole thing. And it was weird crying in front of my friends. And these are like my closest friends that I should be able to lay on the ground and roll around and not think twice. But it was weird, but it was so good to do so. And so we want women to have those experiences, and we want to be a facilitator of letting them know that it's okay to have those experiences. So I think that's going to be a great panel as well.
So what are some of the other highlights, Dr. Marshall?
Well, we have the mental health piece. We have Our Health Matters. We have a panel on LGBTQ. And oh, by the way, we do have a trans woman on the Black Women's Health Imperative Board now. And so we're very proud about that.
And we partnered with in a podcast here, Take What You Need. One of our team members, Lisa Cunningham, actually is the founder of that podcast. And a few months ago, she hosted a really great talk at the Gathering Spot that brought together members of the LGBTQ community and the, you know, straight community of Atlanta to really talk about some of those myths and things that were happening in narrative to dispel some of that. And so that conversation is being furthered with a discussion about some of the challenges that are unique to women and men, cis and trans, in the LGBTQ community. You know, going to the doctor as a trans man and you go to a gynecologist. You know, what is that experience like? You know, are we mindful of that? Are we mindful of what it feels like to have anxiety to go to the bathroom because of your appearance? You know, so there are certain things, there's discrimination that happens at a heightened level against trans people in the medical community. And so these are some of the things, and then that's even personified when they're Black. So those are some of the things from that panel that I think we're going to really get some good information from there as well.
That's modern.
We live in a modern world. We serve, and that's one thing I'm proud of about the imperative. As Angela said, we do have a trans woman on the board. We do incorporate work that pertains to trans women because we need to. It's important. Their lives matter in the midst of the Black Lives Matter movement, and we acknowledge that. We have an HIV/AIDS policy agenda for Black cis and transgender women that does address some of the health disparities and inequality that they face, with some policy recommendations around that. It's a modern world. It's a lot to learn for some people. And I think the best thing we can do is extend grace during this learning process as people try to learn and process new information and be on the right side of history and acceptance.
Dr. Marshall.
I agree. Change is not just so that we're included and accepted, it's so that everybody is included and accepted. And I had to challenge some of my own biases, if I can be honest, because I grew up with a very binary view of gender, and so I had to learn about the different, gender identity versus gender expression versus femininity or masculinity. And so I had to educate myself on it because when you're not familiar with those terms or those nuances, you can inadvertently offend people and not even realize it. And so if we're going to ask for white folks to include us and embrace diversity, then we need to be doing the same thing within our own community, embracing our lesbian, our trans sisters and brothers. We need to embrace everybody. And so that's something that we also promote with Black Women's Health Imperative. We're very inclusive, and I'm very proud of our inclusivity and diversity.
AJ Johnson's coming to hang out.
She is. I know you've talked to her, the energy is infectious. And we have the link of she is a Spelman alum. So, there is that piece of her history that overlaps with ours. And, that panel, it's called It's My Time. And the reason that we came up with that title was for many women who are you get to be in your mid 40s. And at that point, the kids have gone to college or they're out of the house, hopefully, and you've been doing your church commitments and this commitment and that commitment, and you look around like, wait a minute, what am I doing? When do I get to do something for me? When do I get to change my lifestyle in a way that is beneficial to me and that's going to prolong my life through healthy habits? And so that whole panel is really for women. We have Selena Johnson on there. I was blown away at her transition. I think it was last year or earlier this year, when she actually competed in a bodybuilding competition, and how committed and how disciplined she had to be able to do that. We have Ernestine Shepherd, who is in her 80s and who I hope to be as fine as her when I'm next year, let alone, when I'm 80. And so we're excited to hear from her and how she's been able to be committed to a life of wellness. And so I know you've heard from our CEO about the program CYL Square, Change Your Lifestyle, Change Your Life. That whole program is a lifestyle change program that is really based on making those key changes that will be lasting. And so that is pretty much the backdrop of that panel. So I'm excited to hear from AJ, from Selena, from everybody. And that panel is on Monday.
Well, I consider it a whole transformation movement.
Mm-hmm.
It literally takes the entire person and weaves a whole tapestry around them and allows them to see the future, the past, and, the movement. And you kind of glossed over that last program real fast, but I think it's really the fact that you guys are the best at the CDC, but it's a transformative situation for women who participate in that program with you, Monica. You've done a phenomenal job. And it has to be recognized. And that's what this community needs, healing and transformation.
Absolutely. The team is a dynamic team led by Dr. Angela Ford, and She works closely with organizations through what we call the diabetes belt. So in, areas like Alabama, Louisiana, unfortunately, the Deep South, where, cultural traditions have not been the best around diet, exercise, and lifestyle. And so the coaches, we have trained lifestyle coaches that go through rigorous training to be able to not only understand the health piece, but the total body wellness. So a lot of the program is not just don't eat this, eat that, exercise, do this. It really is enriching them as whole people to make those transitions that you're talking about a lot more realistic and a lot more lasting.
Yeah, I was excited to hear about that program. I mean, it really means a lot to know that our community can change.
So we're going to get you on there to do some broga with some of the men and get them interested in some movement, Munson.
Yeah, I mean, we do yoga twice a week on our Rolling Out AM. So we are there. I have my mat right there. I've got a brand new coloring book coming out called Peace and Purpose, which is all about meditation, affirmation, meaningful statements, and tools to calm you down and help you meditate and get on your mat and think about your goal setting. So I'm all about self-care for sure, for certain. So I'm not sure. I sometimes yoga is a little bit boring. Meditation is kind of where I'm at on the, because I like to be moving sometimes, and not that yoga doesn't, and I enjoy it, but not as much as others. I really enjoy running. I enjoy walking. Just meditating for 5 minutes every day before I get out, just to still my mind. It's kind of, so I'm in the mind control of my mind. I'm not trying to manipulate nobody else's mind right now. I'm just trying to control this one right here and keep in my space. And before I jump out of bed, just, palms up, and I'm there. So that's what I love. I don't know that I'm going to do too much bro yoga. I recognize mindfulness is important, and if it's not yoga, we encourage, if it's dancing, if you like to dance, if whatever it is, get moving. So it doesn't have to be yoga, it doesn't have to be broga, it can be dancing, it can be brisk walking, whatever works, just be moving. What I'm going to do this weekend, I know, is enjoy the start of your whole anniversary. Congratulations, ladies, on 38 years of the Black Women's Health Imperative success, and 38 more years to go, and continue to service this community and keep a movement moving forward. So why don't we get final words from you, Dr. Wright, and then you, Monica Coleman, to let us know what we can look forward to and how we can get involved with the Black Women's Health Imperative this weekend coming up, starting on Sunday.
Well, again, I want to thank everyone for listening. Thank everyone for supporting the Black Women's Health Imperative. Our goal is to make Black Women's Health Imperative a household name. So thank you for helping us get the message out. We want to be a source of empowerment for Black women. We want women to start focusing more on their health and to work together as a community. As Angela Davis says, she draws her strength from her community. And as Black women, we need to draw our strength from our community. And so we're here for you, and we're gonna be here for you. And so we're just excited to be a part of this movement, and excited to have everybody joining us in this awesome movement.
Super.
Absolutely. And people can find the full schedule of events on anniversary.bwhi.org. I'm sure they're also on rollingout.com too.
Yes.
The full schedule of events, and I would say there is definitely something for everyone. We're covering, as Dr. Marshall said, emotional and mental wellness. We're covering uterine fibroids. There are millions of women, Black women in particular, who are dealing with fibroids, and some believe their only option is a hysterectomy, a partial hysterectomy, or to just be in debilitating pain a few days out of every month. And so we want to really bring that issue to the forefront, because women are suffering, and a lot are suffering in silence. And so we're excited about that and about talking about that publicly and making women more comfortable to talk about that with their doctors and among their sister circles. Where I'm excited about the Generation Next panel. I'm always encouraged at the work that Janae Epps, who leads our programming on college campuses and among young women, is doing. I think that panel is going to, Munson, you probably need to tell some of those men to tune in there. Their minds might blow up, however they may need to blow up and be put back together to understand the way that our young women are moving. They're powerful. I'm excited to hear from them, and Journey Smollett is going to give us some words on that panel as well. And then the maternal mortality panel, we can't say enough about that. That is an issue that is very near and dear to us as an organization. So I think if you take a chance to look at the schedule, there's something for everyone. And we hope that you'll be able to join us for at least one, if not all, of those panels throughout the week.
I'm happy to know that you guys continue to serve and make this a movement. Household name, I think that it's definitely on its way. I think that you've been here, and this is a wonderful time. People are at home, and you are actually doing some healing to our community, because I think this is just a healing proposition for an entire week to heal our community with the Black Women's Health Imperative anniversary at BWHI. Right.
Got it.
I want to thank you, Doc. Let's do some telemedicine one day. Have you here so you can talk about all those other things that you were doing. Obviously, you're changing your lens as well. So I appreciate your honesty and talking about, but I don't think there's anybody in this entire life that's alive right now that is having to reconsider, reshape their shoes, their attitude, how they actually engage their community, and where your truths live. Are you able to really to love? Is that you love everybody or just a certain few? I would challenge all the women. This is that moment to share with your daughter, to join and see women talking about their journey. This is that moment. So take advantage of it. So thank you so much for tuning in and a seat at the table. I look forward. Congratulations again on 38 years of Black excellence. So I really appreciate you both coming on and spending this time with me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. It's all on you. It's very important that you stay involved and get involved. This is a great moment in time. They have excellent speakers. The Black Women's Health Imperative is going to make a difference in the lives of so many. So let you be one of those, and share with your friends and let them know that there's a great schedule of activities, but there are many ways that we can all grow in how we bring and eliminate the health disparities that are affecting our community by supporting